Okay, guys, Rooster here in Tennessee. This is just going to be a real basic information video. I like to do these from time to time because a lot of new people are getting into the hobby, and please don't take this as a condescending or I'm a know-it-all or think I know everything type video. This is just my perspective, my opinion, my experience. If you disagree with me, that's completely fine. Video is just being made strictly to help folks out that are looking for a little guidance and may stumble across this video on YouTube. Common question I get these days with all these different radios that are out there now. You have radios that will do 25 watts. You have radios that will do 5 and 600 watts. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy, it's crazy, it's crazy. So a lot of people wonder what amp they need to get for specific radios. And one of the terminologies that is confusing to people is high drive and low drive. Now, understandably so, because those are very broad terms that do not have specific parameters. And what I mean by that is every different type of amplifier kind of has its own set of guidelines to what they consider high drive and what they consider low drive. And I'll get into explaining that here in a second. But I go back in time and think about where this kind of started at, and I know my own experience when I was a beginner CBer, I didn't understand these Palomar 250s that used to be mass produced. So you'd have like a Palomar Elite 250, and then you'd have one that looked just like it, and it says Palomar Elite 250 HD for high drive. Now, at the end of the day, both of these amps had the same transistors in them, and neither one of them would be recommended to put over 2 watts to 3 watts dead key into it. To me, that is a low drive amplifier. I think they use the term HD or high drive kind of as a sales gimmick because, whatever, it sounded more badass when they were selling it. Like, oh, you've got the Palomar 250, I've got the Palomar 250 HD. Like, no, they're the same amp. Not any difference in them. They both do 200 watts, 250 watts, PEP. They both take a 35 watt radio swing, and they both take 2 watts of dead key. But a lot of people are fooled by that, and they think because it says HD, they can put a 4 watt stock radio into it. And simply put, most low drive amps, you just can't do that. They're not designed to take that drive. Now, I do want to point out a newer amp that's it's confusing, kind of an example of that confuses people sometimes. And that is the RM Italy 503 HD. Now, I think it's one of the better amps out there for the money. You get a preamp, you get sideband, and you get 6 different positions for power output. The amp will take about 2.5 watts dead key and about 35 to 40 watts PEP. But wait, that sounds like a low drive amp, doesn't it? That doesn't sound like a high drive to me. That still sounds like a low drive amp. It only takes 2 watts dead key, 35 watts PEP. That's kind of low drive, But it says HD, high drive, which means it must take more. No, it doesn't. A lot of people message me. They have stock radios that come out of the box dead key in 4 watts. They want to know if they can run this amp with it because it says it's a high drive. It's just simply not. It's a high drive in the sense of the RM Italy world. What I mean by that is initially RM Italy didn't have a 503 HD. They had a 503 and a 503P. The difference in them was one had a preamp, the P, one did not. The P doesn't stand for powerful or anything like that. Some people spread that rumor. It doesn't. They both did the same power. They were both low drive amps that only took about 25 watts peak and 2 watts dead key. The biggest difference is this one will take about 15 watts more peak, 10 to 15 watts more peak. But in the overall sense, to me, it's still a low drive amp. Well, the reason they came out with this model is people were blowing the 503s up left and right, giving them a bad name. RM Italy's are junk, they're no good, they're blowing up, can't drive them with anything. So they come out with 503 HD that was more accepting to more common radios because let's face it, most radios that have been modified will do 30 to 40 watts PEP anyway. So the 503 HD was the answer. It's a higher drive than the original 503. I wouldn't call it a high drive. It's labeled as a high drive, but like I said, in the grand scheme of things, it's not really a true high drive, in my opinion. Again, that's confusing to folks that aren't in the radio business and haven't been for a while. They look at high drive and think, okay, every amp that's a high drive can take, 4 or 5 watts dead key. So that's the story on the 503. We're going to move on to these fat boys here. All right, so we got in front of us, we've got 2 amps, and from the outside they look basically the same. This one's got a knob on it, this one doesn't. They both got on and off switches. This one's got a variable knob. Okay, these are the common, basically a lot of amp builders out there try to build around the same design. Some do a better job at it than others. I'm not going to say that, who's better, who's not, whatever. I'm not here to get into that, but they're all basically the same design, just some people can do it better than other people can. So on the left, we've got a 2-drive and 4. On the right, we've got a straight 4, 2879C. 4-pill 2879C, 2-drive and 4, 2879C. Okay, this one would be considered a low drive, the 2-drive and 4. This one would be considered a high drive, the straight 4. Now this is more along the lines of what I think about when I think about high drive and low drive amps. This amp over here to the left, 35 to 40 watts PEP, 2 watts dead key going in. Now that sounds awful familiar. That sounds like I'm describing the 503 high drive RM Italy. Well, that's exactly right, and that's getting back to what I told you guys about different types of amps have different parameters of what they consider high drive and low drive. In the Class C, well, mainly Class C, you can get these amps biased, but typically Class C. In the Class C competition style amps, low drive amps take about 2 watts dead key, 35 to 40 watts PEP. The 2 in this amp, it's a 2-drive and 4. The 2 tells you that it has 2 driver transistors in it, and the 4 is the 4 output transistors. Now this amp over here still has 4 output transistors, but it does not have 2 driver transistors. So to compensate for it not having 2 drivers, to get the maximum power out of it, you can drive this amp with a high power radio. Now, 4 2879Cs, I tell people 200 watts PEP, 10 to 12 watts dead key. That's what I tell folks. Everybody tells people different stuff. Some people say 250 watts. But we'll just stick to 200 watts for the purpose of this. So, because this one doesn't have any drivers built in it, you can put 200 watts into it, because you're compensating for the 2 driver transistors that this amp has. Now, going a little bit further into this, any amp that is straight 2879s, that means from a 2-pill 2879 to a 32-pill 2879, that's going to be considered a high drive amp. But that doesn't mean that they all take the same amount of power. As you increase the amount of output transistors, this one has 4, you can increase the amount of drive that goes into it. So let's just say, for the sake of the video, we were to downgrade this to a 2-pill amp. You wouldn't be able to drive the same radio or the same external amplifier into the 2-pill as you do the 4-pill. You're going to be able to do half. So if we say 200 watts on this one, 2 2879Cs will take 100 watts of peak swing and about half the carrier, so 4 watts or so, 5 watts max. If we were to upgrade this and go to a 8-pill 2879C, you could put 350 to 400 watts PEP into that amp. Okay, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Now on the low drive side, basically all the low drive amps are going to take the same, because most of them are going to have 2 transistors in the driver section. Most of them. Now there's people that make, 4 driving 12s or stuff like that, but 90% of the amps that are designed this way, if they have a driver transistor built in, whether it's a 1 driving 4 or a 2 driving 4 or a 1 driving 2, they're going to be 35, 40 watt PEP max. Now, ones that have one driver transistor, like a one driving 4, they take a little bit less, or a one driving 2, they take a little bit less drive than a 2 driving 4, a 2 driving 8, something along those lines. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover. I don't have a sheet in front of me. This is kind of a non-scripted video, but it's a common questions I get. I had a guy message me the other day and asked me what driver he needed for a one driving 4. And I'm not making fun of him. He's a nice guy. He just didn't know. He thought he had to have a driver to put in front of it. And I said, man, I said, I'll sell you whatever you want, but if I sell you a driver, you're definitely going to blow that box up. And that's really what this video boils down to. I don't want people buying stuff that they don't want or that's going to, you know, cause them to have trouble. Whether you're buying it from me, whether you're buying it from somebody else, just if this video helps at least, you know, a few people keep from buying something they don't need or having trouble, then, you know, mission accomplished. But that is my take on low drive and high drive amps and the transistor world. Tubes are a whole different discussion. But this is just a real general information video. Like I said, I hope it doesn't come off as me being a know-it-all or a smart aleck or anything like that. I just want people to kind of have a video to refer to and be like, okay, my radio does 25 watts. That means I need a low drive amp. Or, hey, my radio does 100 watts. Probably means I need a high drive amp. And just know that every low drive and every high drive amp are not created equal, okay? Just like the little 203P here, low drive amp, but it won't take, you're not recommended to put 35 and 40 watts into this like you are this amp. Now, they're both called low drives, but just the difference in amplifiers. Okay, guys, and always, you know, if you're not buying something from me, or if you are buying it from me, you're buying it from me or somebody else, always ask the person you're getting it from what you can put into it if you're not sure. You know, I don't ever care to answer questions. I would rather miss out on a sale than sell something to somebody, them have trouble, and be disgruntled or unhappy about it. So that's my policy. I'm not all about just selling you something. I mean, I want to sell stuff and make money, but I also want people to get what they need and not just be shoveling products on people that they don't need. So that's my take on it, guys. Hope everybody has a good one. I'm getting back to packing. Rooster in Tennessee. Catch you guys out there. Questions, comments, shoot me a text, 423-299-3535. Check out the website, roostercb.com. See you, bye.